Hey everybody, back with another video. This time it is not my board. This is somebody else's Sinistar board that we were working on, and it's got some problems, so I figured I'd power it up, show you the symptom. Does boot. Oh, actually I should show you that first. 0, 3, 3. No idea what that error is. 0, 3, 3. And then you can barely see it. It says something, initial tests, maybe results. I have no idea. We'll reset it. 0, 3, 3. And then it flashes again. 0, 3, 3. Then we get, I think it's initial tests results or indicate something. It's either RAM or ROM, something or another, but you can't really read it. And then it just resets. So figured what we do is put on the cat box, try to check the memory. It could be, I know the ROM board works because I powered it on with my board, so, but it could be addressing the ROMs correctly. But obviously there's a graphics issue too, so it could be something with, like the video addressing part of addressing the RAM, because this RAM is both working and video stuff. And I've covered that I think in some other videos, but it's been a while since I've worked on these Williams boards, so I have some, looking back at my old videos and stuff to think about. Alright, so I have the cat box hooked up, and I've been messing with it for actually a whole day and stuff. Anyway, so I figured what I would do is actually show how to create a FPGA CAT Box configuration from scratch, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So this is kind of interesting. So anyway, I was actually, messing with this, and I was loading an existing config. So you open up your FPGA CAT Box application, go to Williams, Stargate, Robotron, Sinistar, because they all pretty much use the same thing. And then there was this CAT Box Sinistar B configuration. However, because it was probably made on an older version of the code, some of these other features like PF RAM, POKIEs, and even the CPU type probably weren't there. And honestly, I don't even know what the CPU type controls, but I know it's wrong. This should be a 6809. You come to the ROMs, this should be all the ROMs that are loaded. However, I believe the person who created this only had the 9010 signatures, which is fine, because when you test the ROMs, you can change what your your ROM test type is from checking it against CRC32. You can test it against Fluke 9010A signature. But for whatever reason, this file was not working for me, and I'm not going to actually show you guys that. I messed with it 100 times. No matter what, I could not get this file to work regularly. So, and the way he has the RAM set up is fine. It's actually, it probably is. Is it accurate? A00BFF? Maybe. I think there were some improvements for that, how it was set up. So what I wanted to do is really either start from loading a Robotron config, which I know Fred had worked on right here, and you can see you got the CRCs and all that stuff going on in the RAMs. He has it broken down where you're reading each of the 3 banks of RAM separately. So you can read it in, all the RAM together, the entire address space, or basically he breaks it out so you can read just column 1, column 2, and column 3. I'm not going to go into all the details just yet. But the way you do that is by configuring high order bits to low order bits, and then you put in this block size and block spacing, and it's basically skipping the addressing at 100 hex or 100. I shouldn't say 100 bytes. It's actually, how many bytes is 100 hex? 100 is 256 bytes. So yeah, so it's like 256 bytes, skips to the next row of RAM, 256 bytes, skips to the next row, 256 bytes. You get the idea. Then it goes back and forth. All right, so anyway, so what I wanted to do is, since there is not a Sinistar ROM, is I'm just going to hit clear config, and I am going to start from scratch. We're going to actually create the CPU type. We're going to make it a 6809. The watchdog address is important, I think, for just signature analysis. I'm not going to mess with it right now. We're just going to leave it blank. I don't even know what it is. Definitely don't need to put in this vector stuff here. Vector generator type, don't need to worry about. Math box type, number of pokies, and all this playfield RAM and motion object crap and stuff like that. Don't need to worry about any of that stuff. So really, 6809 for any raster game. Watchdog address, idle address, watchdog data. That's really what we want to configure. And then if you get into the vector games or Atari games, vector games, you want to configure the vector stuff or the math box if it has one, or if it's an Atari game that uses pokies, you want to configure the pokey stuff. But this is a Williams game. The next thing you want to do is come to ROMs, and you want to configure the folder where your ROMs are. Mine are in a folder called ROMs right there. That's where mine is. And we want to, hold on, what just happened here? Folder for ROM files. We're going to choose Sinistar. Oh, this is, see, here's my path to all ROM files, tester data path. I think that's specific to my environment, whereas this one is just pointing to Sinistar. It's not the whole path, I don't think. Yeah, see, it just says Sinistar, does it? I wonder if it puts the whole path in there. I have no idea. Anyway, Sinistar. And then we just want to start configuring the ROMs. And ROMs in Sinistar, it helps to have probably your MAME up. So your MAME driver. So this is the Williams.cpp MAME driver. And we can look at where the ROMs start and end. I think it is probably, it's kind of crazy because it gets bank selected, so you do have to know a little bit about what's going on before you set this stuff up. Yeah, so your ROMs is usually going to be 0. No, that's D0. Where's my ROM at? That's RAM. Main bank. 00 to 8FF. That's usually the addressing of the standard, I think, like 10 ROMs or whatever. That you have, and they're 2732s. So each one is going to be 1000 hex in length. So 4 kilobytes. Yeah, 4 kilobytes. So we come back. God, this sounds more complicated than it really is. But you go 000 to probably FFF, and then you go 100. And just to see if I'm right, I'm I have a file up here that is my guide. Yeah, ROM region 1 is 000 to FFF. Alright, so I'm just making sure I'm doing it right. 000 FFF. And we're going to choose our file name, and I have my Sinistar folder already up. Choose Sinistar 1. We're going to choose ROM type 2732. I think that's only important. Actually, I'm not positive, but I think that's important when you're actually reading the files from the board and bringing them over. It's important to have this ROM type here. I don't know how important it is when we're actually generating the signatures. You don't have to worry about the page information. This is for like Star Wars that pages the ROMs. But for Williams boards, the RAM and the ROM memory address space is bank switched. So like you write a 0 to read RAM and you write a 1 to a certain address to read ROMs. So we do have to use this enable before test. And don't ask me how I know this. I only know it because somebody else figured it out. Is you want to... Oh, actually I do. It's in MAME actually. In the MAME driver, it does mention that C900 is where you bank switch basically. And you want to probably put a 0x there to represent hexadecimal. So at that address, we are going to write a 1. And then when we're done reading that ROM, we are going to write a 0. Now that probably isn't necessary. We could just enable it once on the very first ROM and then leave it like that, honestly. So let's just leave it there, but we'll leave it disabled. We won't write it back so it can do the memory test. Alright, and then we also want to put in that this is used in version 3. Version 3 of Sinistar. Because I already have the ROM, the actual ROM from MAME, put in that folder, and I have that file name linked here, I can hit this generate, and it generates the SHA signature, the CRC32, it generates the 9010 signature, it generates the Catbox checksum if you were using a Catbox, and then we just need to go to our next ROM. And then we'll start from FFF, so we're going to start at 001000, which is right after FFF, and we're going to go to 1 FFF, which is 1000 bytes. And just to make sure I'm right, yes, I am right. Alright, and then I'm going to choose the next file name, which is Sinistar 2. Hit OK. That's used in version 3 and version 2, actually, both of those. So you can, if it's in, if the same ROM is used in multiple versions, you can put in a comma separated list here and used in versions. And then actually, what I should have done is let me actually clear all this. I'm going to clear. Oh gosh. Can I just clear this? Alright, let me go. 0. Dang it. If you do that, reinitialize the default value, that actually just ruined the whole thing. Alright, that's alright. We'll do it. This is painful to watch, I'm sure. Alright, Sinistar file name. We gotta redo it. Sinistar 1. 000 to FFF, that's 1000 bytes, 2732. Got my file name. It's used in version 3 and version 2. That's what I should have done to begin with. Generate. Put in a location. I can't remember what the location is for this. I'll come back and do that later. But now what we want to do is hit duplicate. Now I'm on the second ROM. I just need to change my file name. Change this to be 1000. 21 FFF, and it's also used in version 3, version 2. Hit generate, changes my CRCs and checksums, etc. And then I duplicate that. 200 to 2FF, and you get the idea. Rinse and repeat. It's not always 200 to 2FF, obviously, but or sequential like this, but it is if you're using a 2732s. So change your file name, Sinistar 3. It is also used in version 3 and 2. Hit generate, boom, keep going, right? So I'll pause. I'm going to finish all that, and then I'll come back. Alright, so I went ahead and skipped ahead and loaded my board config, and I cut and paste the watchdog and idle address and all that stuff. The clock frequency was 1 megahertz. The game runs at 1 megahertz on the 6809. And then I started putting in board notes, like, you know, what version of software did I create this on? What was the ROM config notes, like that the fact that you have to write a 1 to C9000 to enable the ROM addressing and stuff. Version 3 is the default. Version 2, version 1's not in the system. And then wrote in RAM config notes. Basically, I'm writing in notes for every tab on the setup screen. Board config, ROMs, RAMs, IO, trace signals, init, EA, ROM. Some of these apply, some of these don't apply to the Williams boards, so I put NA there, and then I link to the main driver down here. If you go to the ROMs, you can see that the default version, this default version ROMs is picked up when you put in the used versions here, and you start from 0, see Sinistar 1, you see the address space, ROM 1, ROM 2 is in location 1A, ROM 3 is in location 2D, you get the idea. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, I think maybe up to 9. 9 goes up to 8FF, but Sinistar and a few other boards use additional memory space for ROMs. So ROM 10 is E00 to EFF. That's unique, I think, to Sinistar. And then ROM 11 is F00 to FFF. So you have those as well. Come to RAM. You have the first test the entire address space of RAM. And you see here it's writing a 0 to that address space so that it was only reading the RAM addresses versus the ROM addresses. It's a 0 or 1 to flip between the two. And then you have starting at 100 hex to BFF. I have a question on that I posted on the forums, but basically it's reading one bank. There's 3 banks of RAM, 4116s. Each RAM has 1 data output. So 8 RAM equal a full 8-bit wide spacing, and so this will test each bank of RAM separately. So this is bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, then it's the CMOS, then it's the SRAM that's on the ROM board. I didn't mess with the IO, trace signals, init, or EA ROM. That's really an Atari thing. The init is something that Fred wrote to basically set everything up. When anything that's under the init is when you actually hit open here and the board's powered on, it will run through these settings. It'll write to address C900, set that bit to 0. It will write to this, which is like a configuration line for PIA, I think, one of the PIAs that are on the board. So it's setting up the board to be ready for the FPGA tester, especially if you're going to test stuff with the PIA. I don't think you necessarily have to do this, honestly, so to get it to work, but to get more advanced things like the IO and some of that stuff to work, you definitely need to set these up into a default state. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. So now let's test the board. Just so you know, understand what the FPGA CAT box is doing. It's plugging into the CPU, and then it's interacting with the address and data bus. It's setting a data bit of 1 so that we can read the ROMs to that certain address, C900, setting it to 0 so we can read the RAM. There's 3 banks of RAM, bank 1, 2, and 3, and at least that's how I think they're ordered, 1, 2, and 3. There's a 1 right here, 1, 8. Oh, okay, yeah, that's just RAM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is data bit 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then bank 2, bank 3. All right, so we're going to power up our CAT box. We're plugged in. We'll power this on. Yeah, and then we will power this on. Let me get our little static screen there because there's no code being run. And let me sit down and come right back. Just to double check, we're going to load our config, Williams, Stargate, the Sinistar jacklit configuration file. There's my config, and we're going to hit open. Now this is communicating with the CAT box FPGA, and also then clock detected means we're getting good clock from the board. We're going to go to ROM. We're going to start a ROM test. So under setup, that's where all your setup configuration is down here. Then up above is all of your tests that you can run. Like you can do signature analysis. I've done some videos on some of this stuff already, so sorry that I'm holding the camera here. ROM, start ROM. Boom. Everything's passed. And you see I have ROM test type 9010A signature, but we can do CRC32. There we go. All right. So we know our ROMs are good. Let's come to our RAM. And the first test is going to test the entire RAM address space, 000 to BFF. So it's going to test all of them. It's not really going to give you a clue of which bank of RAMs is bad. And then the next test is going to test bank 1, and the next test bank 2, the next test bank 3, then the CMOS, then the SRAM. And you can see that I have 2 bits that are good on my entire address space test. Okay, and then but now with the more detailed per bank test, bank 1 looks good, bank 2 looks good, bank 3 looks bad. And one of the things I noticed actually when I was just messing around with this is these RAM here are really cold. Like these, if I leave the board on, get really warm, and these get really bad. And I have posted, I think, a video before, maybe I'll link to it here, of troubleshooting this LED. Like, I don't know if I really truly, if the Sinistar, they might have been like cutting corners at that point, right? Because the Sinistar LED is a backward C when it's running correctly. I posted this on a video, but I think Sean, can't remember his last name right now, but helped me figure out like why that was. But there's basically some bugs in the code. So that error 033 could really be 133, which would be RAM, bank 3, RAM 3. And if it really is meant to be 133, I can tell, well, that's what this shows. It shows that the third RAM data line on bank 3 is bad. So that's giving me a clue of what's wrong and why we have those errors that we saw on the screen. And let me do a quick test. I'm going to pull a known working RAM from this bank here and put it in slot 3. But I think there's something going on. I think there's either data lines aren't connected or enables aren't connected. If these sockets were removed, something's not working right, because these 2 RAM will stay warm up here, will get warm, like these get really warm, and these are just like ice cold, almost like they're not getting any power. But I did test power, they are getting -5, plus, +5, +12. They're getting all the correct voltage, but they're not actually doing anything. So either they're dead or something else is wrong. So let me come back after swapping this one for that one. So I took chip 2 in chip 1 in bank 2 and moved it to bank 3, chip 3. And let's run this again. Oh, actually, hold on. Let me abort that test. Clear the results. Let's start. There we go. So expect this one to fail. Oh, all of them are failing. You know why? I'm not powered on. Let me power on. Oh boy, that helps. Alright, let's clear the results. Start the RAM test. Yep, we got a bit 0 error, but we just don't know what row it's in. Row 1's good. Row 2, bit 0 should be bad. Boom, because it's empty. And then what we got here? Oh, nice. It's probably the RAM, because now we got 3 bits. This is as simple as replacing 4 RAMs to fix this board. Oh, let's see. I'm going to take them all out. All right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new RAM in. And we'll rerun this test. Bam. It's looking good. Bam. Yep. Come on, bank 3. Let's go. I know it's going to work because this first test went all right. So all of our RAM is good. All of our ROM is good. So now I should be able to unplug my CAT box and plug in the CPU, and we should get boot to a game. Let's see what we get. Now, obviously, I don't have sound, but hopefully we don't have any lines. Oh, it's still got a weird. It says all systems indicate okay. What the heck is okay? I don't know. I guess that's normal. I think on the top and bottom for the Williams board, the over screen. Does that look normal? The color seems a little off to me, but. Initial test indicate all systems go. I don't know why. Does that look not as bright as normal? Maybe it's because I have too much light on. Seems a little dim. I mean, it seems like it's playing okay. Yeah, and it's got a C, backward C on the ROM LED. I mean, I guess it's working. I wonder if I want to measure the outputs. Obviously, that high score table is totally jacked up. All ROMs okay. So I had to crank. I normally don't have to crank up my contrast. It's kind of like a little dim. No RAM errors. No CMOS RAM errors. Obviously, I don't have anything else hooked up. Color RAM test. That's weird. Color RAM test does not look right. See, that's going, yeah, it's missing a color. It's missing red. All right. Let me check the colors here to see what's going on there. Got something else to fix because something's not right. It's either one of these transistors or something. See if there's anything super hot here. Yeah, see, now all of the RAM is warm. Like literally these RAM that were bad were just cold as ice. They weren't hot at all, and they should be, you know, a little bit warm, obviously. All right, I'm done messing with it for tonight, though. I'm gonna have to come back and look at that RAM issue. I mean, I don't know, something to do with the color lines. Look at the schematic and stuff.